Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, everyone. First of all, welcome to our architecture inquiry class. Yeah, as you might remember that I think last week's I've been giving a lectures on quantitative and also qualitative research methods. Yeah, and along with these recordings, yeah, I also share a recording about uh, multiple entries. Yeah, we call it mixed mode. Yeah, multiple and types of methodologies, yeah, engaging either quantitative or qualitative at the same times. Yeah, which what we call as a mixed methods. Yeah, that was the other recording that I've shared with you. So today's or this morning's, I'll be giving a lectures on case study research methods, yeah, as one of the very important research methods normally conducted in the field of architectures. Okay, allow me to share my screen first. Okay, I hope you can see my screen now. Yeah. Along the lectures, yeah, because this is pre-recorded lectures, I believe you are free to ask a questions, yeah, either in our WhatsApp groups or you can ask a questions personally to me, yeah, in this case, yeah. And of course, you can always ask a question in our chat box, yeah, there. Okay, let's start the discussion on the case studies. Okay, so this morning's class will cover this outline. We will use this outline. First, I will be talking about definition and overview of what we call a case study research. Then I'll be talking about the histories of case studies, yeah, from the beginning until the end, until what we currently use. Yeah. A type of case studies. Yeah. I'll be talking also how to identify the theoretical perspective to conduct the case studies, and how to design a case studies, how to conduct it, yeah, how to do a participant selections, yeah, how to do a data collection, analysis and reportings, issue and concern on validity and reliabilities, and lastly, I'll be talking about the strengths, weakness, and ethical consideration of a case study research. First, let's talk about the definitions. Yeah. Not like a quantitative research methods, yeah. Case studies is a part of the qualitative descriptive research. Yeah? So it's a part of qualitative research methods. That's why one of the definitions is that normally when we did a case study, we use a small groups of samples. Yeah, it's not going to be big because our focus is on the details. Yeah. Maybe you remember when I talk about qualitative risk methods. Yeah, actually there's a lots of types of qualitative risk methods. One of them were case studies. Yeah. Why a case study was used, yeah, in most of the architecture research is that because of we are used with it. Yeah, we have things called precedent studies in our studios. Yeah, when we have our studios, we normally did a precedent studies. A case study is basically is a type of precedent studies. Yeah, or we call it typological studies. Yeah, so we are trying to do comparisons and also uh, consensus understandings, yeah, on what we believe to be a representations of a samples that we refer to. Yeah. So a case study typically examine the interplay of all variables. Yeah. So it focus on the thick descriptions. Yeah. This when we refer to Creswell's, yeah, in 2012 when he talk about educational research. So same like what we have for the qualitative research methods, yeah, normally we deal with the question of how and why, not so much on what, why, when, or other questions. Yeah. So we are more focusing on how and why it happened like that. Yeah. So basically, the goal of case study is to offer a new variables and question for further research. Yeah, so it open up a new discourse, it open up a new discussions. Yeah, that will make it this approach is unique and also open up for more and further research. Actually, case study is not a new thing. Yeah, it started with many fields. Yeah, if you're looking at how the doctors, yeah, with the clinical methods of research, they're referring to numbers of cases. Yeah, or social workers. Yeah, sometimes the host historian and anthropologists, when they are describing something, they're referring to specific cases, yeah, specific samples. That's what we call a case studies. But case study becoming more prominent, yeah, when Robert Park is not a researcher, he's not a university lecturer, he's a reporter. Yeah. When Robert Parks starts in 1920s, he developed a sociological case studies. Yeah, when he gave a lectures of at the University of Chicago, yeah, back in 20s. Yeah. So he believed that variety or others explanation on phenomena is based on the variety of values and human experience. Yeah. So this become one of the important key element of the case study itself. Yeah. So in his research, Park encouraged students not to get out, not to stay, not to just stay in the class or just go to libraries. Yeah. But he want the students or the participants to go out and observe the human experience. Yeah. You can. He wrote in one of his writings that you can go and sit in the lounge of luxury hotels, on the doorsteps of the flop house, sit on the Gold Coast cities, or other things, yeah, slum areas or other orchestra hall, then you can get more experience on the things. Yeah. But over the years, yeah, after it started in 1920s, yeah, it become case study was heavily criticized. Yeah, because by the people who are using a quantitative research methods, as I said, because the sample was relatively small, yeah, so it's very difficult to generalize it into a bigger scopes. Yeah. So most of the quantitative researcher believe that case study is not scientific, yeah, because it's not scientific enough to be called as a part of the research. So from 1930s until the 1950s, yeah, most of the positivisms, yeah, approach in research, they don't consider case study as a part of the important research methodologies on that. Yeah. But in 1950s, yeah, it was started by Harvard Business Schools. Yeah, in 1950s, it started to use, yeah, a case studies, yeah, cases. Yeah. So they are trying to learn more by studying some cases. Yeah. Then case study become one of the most popular uh, research methodologies. Yeah. So they have a discussions, yeah, they want to know the real world cases, yeah, rather than just collecting data of numbers. Yeah, now they discussing about cases to cases. Yeah. So a case study also incorporate the idea that the students, yeah, like in our class today, that student can learn from one another. Yeah, as you can see in your assignment one, you did reading of the papers. Yeah, then it was hoped that from one student you can present, you can share what you read to other students. Yeah. Even I share the, if you can see the submission of the assignment one, you can go inside, you can see the papers, yeah, which were collected and described by your friends, yeah, so they can learn each other on the things. Yeah. That's the development of case study until now. Yeah, it developed become a more and more complex, more and more sophisticated, and more useful. Yeah, for solving the problem of a complex research, with more details and more rigorous, and you have a more complex on that. Basically, there are four types of case studies that we are implementing today. One, what they call illustrative case studies. This is basically descriptive studies. You describe each of the case studies, each of the cases, and then you analyze it. The next type of case study, they call it exploratory or pilot case studies. So you have to do a kind of small sample, before you go into a larger scale of investigation. For example, you would like to know what is the Gen Z opinion on the urban farming, for example. Then you pick up certain areas, maybe certain representative of Gen Z. Then you test your methods with them before you go into full scale of the whole nation's Gen Z. Maybe you did that we call a pilot interviews. You interview them, maybe you distribute questionnaire. That's what we call a pilot case studies. So a pilot case studies is sometimes the one who as a trial test before you run a full scale of data collections. That we call exploratories, explore. You can remember the exploratory or pilot case studies. Then the third one, they call it cumulative case study. Cumulative study is that it's not over 1 or 2 months, even sometimes over decades. So over decade, you cumulative certain cases. By analyzing those cases, you have a more and more comprehensive analysis. So you don't have to develop a new research or to expand a new research, which might be a repetitive study. You might just repeat what they have done. So just use whatever cumulative case study or case bank of cases that you have already collected, and you use that as your baseline of your analysis. Lastly, the last type of case study, they call it critical or instant case studies. This is a very unique when you like to understand certain phenomena, without you don't want to generalize it because the cases was very specific. So a specific cases, we use a critical instance case studies. So we just compare it, we just pick up some samples, then we did a comparison between a specific field of issues and research. How you identify theoretical perspective? There are three types of adopted theories that commonly use in the case studies. Most of the time they use individual theories. So this guy was something like that. This Charles Darwin, for example, he has the ideas of evolutions, from looking at some sample in the Galapagos Islands. So that is the one he used individual theories. He has his own theory on that. Or some people, they use organizational theories, how the organization evolve, bureaucracies. But organization doesn't mean it's a company. Sometimes it's even a countries. It's a nation. Sometimes it's a government, sometimes it's non-government, small company, big company. So it's organizational theories. Lastly, case studies, sometimes they use social theories, how certain phenomena comes or affecting a bigger set of social peoples, social communities. In the communities, urban development group, group behavior, culture institution, etc. Let's learn how to design a case studies. Normally, when you talk about case study, you deal with at least four problems. One, they call it what question to studies, what data are relevant. You can, of course, always start with question. You always start with problem, issues. What data are relevant, what data to collect, and how to analyze the data. And these are the four main problems, when you're dealing, when you design your research. However, Robert K. Yin in 1993 offer 5 basic components of research design. One that he call it as a studies question, as I say, is issues. Yeah. Studies proposition. Yeah, this is what we call, sometimes we call it uh, uh, assumptions, yeah, atau hypothesis. Yeah. Then studied unit of analysis, how you're going to analyze the data, what are the parameters, what are the checklists, what are the standard that you're using to analyze the data. That we call it unit of analysis. Yeah. Then the logic, yeah, how the logic link the data to the proposition, how you link the data that you already have or that you already collected with the previous, yeah, question or the issues or the hypothesis that you developed before. Yeah. And lastly, the criteria of interpreting the findings. Yeah, this more on the data analysis. Yeah, how you interpret the findings. Is it using the certain themes? Is it using certain methods, etc. Yeah. That in case study, when you conduct it, there are two type of methods that people normally use. One they call it single, or it's a multimodal. Yeah. Multimodal mean that your data, yeah, your methodologies. Yeah. Some people they only use one method. For example, interviews. When you interview people, you are using only an interview data, yeah, which this single method model, which is not wrong, nothing wrong with that, but it must it was being criticized. Yeah. So normally when we did case study, we not engaging only one methods or one models. Yeah, we use a multi models. Yeah, either you come from interviews, which might be coming from questionnaires, combined with other things. Yeah, in order to ensure that case study was strong enough, yeah, to be generalized or to be discussed in depth. Yeah. One thing very important in the case study, because your sample was very small, is that your justifications, yeah, and this means on how you do a selection of the participants. Yeah. So justification and representation is very important. For example, if I would like to know about Gen Z's opinion, of course I have to use Gen Z as my respondent. Yeah. You cannot use other generation as a respondent, or maybe you like to know the opinion of UCSS students. Of course, you usually need to use a UCSS student, but which year? Yeah, for example, if you talk about the industries or experience in working, maybe you're looking at the final years as a representation. Yeah. But if you're looking at the experience as a student, maybe the first and second year is more appropriate on that. Yeah, that's what we call a justification as representation of a sample of participant selections. Uh, Sometimes, yeah, sometimes, often, a brief case history is done on the participants in order to provide researcher as of their participants. So that's why you need to understand their histories. Yeah. Do they have an experience staying? How long have been staying in the areas? How their perspective on things? How they've been grown? Yeah, in that particular areas. In terms of data collections, yeah, there are 6 types of data collections that people normally use in case study. One, they refer to documents, yeah, document, or they call it content analysis. Yeah. Archival records, yeah, document, archival record mean the one that you archive. Yeah. Documents might not be something that you archive. Archive is mean that you store it a long time ago. Yeah, it has a historical background. But document could be anything. Yeah, could be current newspaper, yesterday newspapers, or today's news, etc. Or you can do an interviews. Yeah, some case study use interview as a data collection to get a full pictures of that. You can do a direct observation, and then you as a third person, you observe what happened into that particular cases. Yeah. Or you can do a participant observation. I mean, you are part of the one you being observed. So you want to know how you as a student experience. You become a student. Then you experience going to class, etc. That could be, we call it a participant observations. Yeah. And of course, you can use an artifacts. Artifact, for example, like in architecture, we use the buildings, yeah, to do a case studies of certain things. In the field of composition research, six source might be, yeah, for like writer's draft, Code record of students, writers, yeah, transcript interviews. These are the reports. Yeah, you can use the transcripts, conversations, videotape, hard copies. Yeah, so these are the type of forms. Yeah, the outcomes. Yeah, the output of the research. Yeah, the one that you produce at the end. Yeah. How you do the data analysis? Yeah. So, Sharon Merriam in 1988 suggests 7 analytic frameworks for the presentation of the data. Yeah. So, how you going to present the data? Yeah. So, when you did analyze it, you need to know the role of each participant, the network analysis. You can use the historical, thematical, resources, ritual, and symbolism. These are the sample of the data analysis that you can do. Yeah, these are two frameworks. Yeah, to look patterns among the data and to look for pattern the meaning to the case studies. Yeah. So by understanding maybe the thematics based on certain themes, historical based on the historical outlines, yeah, progression things, yeah, resources, etc. These are the things that will give you a clear understandings, yeah, on what actually the data means, yeah, for your research in the future. How to compose the case study reports? Yeah, basically, when you talk about case study, it's more on the stories. Yeah, so it's a narrative is very important. Yeah, you can have a thousand of data, but if you cannot uh, compose it into a proper scientific report, it won't work. Yeah. You are the one who actually composing it. Yeah, you are the one who interpret it. Yeah. Not ChatGPT or other things. Yeah. So I encourage you to really read it. You really to understand it and really write your reports, yeah, based on what you understand from it. Not just using ChatGPTs and just put down everything, then come out something that you don't even understand on that. So, Sarah Miriam in 1988 also offers 7 suggestions alternative processes of data. Yeah, you can prepare specialized condensation. You can replace narrative sections, answer to open-ended questions. Yeah, schemas, summaries. Yeah, you can put the summaries, incorporate headlines. Yeah, analytical summary and other things. Yeah, data in colorful, unique graphic presentations. These are the suggestion to present the data. So it's not only one written report, but it could be infographic, it could be headlines, schemas, and other things. Yeah, summaries. Yeah, summary schema summaries, something that people can easily understand, not just reading a thick form of report. Of course, when we talk about case studies, one of the issues, as you can see in the histories between 1930s into 1950, what's the reliabilities, whether it's scientific enough, whether the data that you collected represent the whole issues or other things. So, once you did it, yeah, once you in order for you to reduce those kind of issues, yeah, you can do a reliability and validity test. Yeah, you can check, which is very important. Yeah, these two issues. Yeah, if your data is not valid, it's not reliable, then the whole research will be invalid. Yeah, will be not serving the purpose. Yeah. So normally, most of the researcher, when they use case study, they use multi-model case, which they are using from different data collection. When you combine the interview with the questionnaire, with the survey, so that you have a more comprehensive understanding of the phenomena of the issue itself. Yeah. That's why in case studies, yeah, we talk about external validity, how you construct validity, reliabilities. Yeah? So this thing is very important for you to understand in more comprehensive manners. Miriam in 1985 suggests different ways of uh, uh, extending or enhancing, the reliability and validity of a case studies. Even he also suggested this method so that the cases can be generalized. Yeah. in terms of generalizabilities. Yeah? So you can implement it to bigger context. One is that he suggested that if the case studies was the validity was questioned, you can prolong the process of data gathering. I mean, you get more data. Yeah. Secondly, they call it triangulation. Triangulation doesn't have to be three. It can be five. It can be six. It can be seven. Yeah, but you did a triangulation when you triangulate. Yeah, you use the variety of source. Yeah, not just using only one source of data, but you combine. Yeah, for example, you have the interview, you have the observation. Yeah, you survey. You also have the questionnaire. Then you combine all these three results. Then you compare it, then that's what we call a triangulation process. Yeah. Or you can conduct a member checks. Yeah, you can do for example, like in when I talk about the mixed methods. Yeah, sometimes you pick up certain important phase of your data. Yeah, then from that you did another you conduct another research on that. Yeah, that's in mixed method. When you have certain data, you interview people, you like to confirm certain data. What you did was you confirm it with the expert interview, or you confirm it with the data, with the document that you have, or you confirm it with the surveys, or you confirm it with the questionnaires. That's what we call you do a member checking. Yeah, yeah. So you from all the data you collected, you pick up certain data which was not so clear, then you do a checking on that particular data set, or the set of data. Yeah. The fourth suggestion was to collect referential materials. Yeah. So complement the data. Yeah. With I say member check mean that you check uh, the data, but this one you use literature reviews. Yeah. To check whether that particular data was valid or not. This called the using referential materials, mean that you do a literature reviews, yeah, to confirm the data. Yeah, not just using another data methods, but you did a literature review on that. Of course, last what we call as engage in peer consultations. Yeah. In case studies on the qualitative, we have called focus group discussion. Yeah, focus group discussion is that when you collected all the experts, you gather them together, you put in one group, in one room, then you ask their opinion on something. That what we call a peer consultation. Or you can consult with an expert, one-to-one interviews. Yeah, that could be another form of peer consultations. Yeah. Okay. Lastly, we're going to talk about strength and weakness, and also the ethical consideration when you're conducting the case studies. Yeah. So, one of the strengths, yeah, that important of the case studies, yeah, is the details. Yeah. Because in most of the quantitative research, as I mentioned before, the numbers of the respondents, the number of data set was huge. Sometimes you are surveying 5,000 people, 50,000 people, 500,000 people. So the numbers is very big. With that huge numbers, yeah, you cannot go details. While in the qualitative approach, when you use a case study research methods, the sample was relatively small. We only have 3 cases, 5 cases, yeah, 6 cases. So in this small sample of cases, you can go very deep on that. So you can interview them not once, even 3 times, 4 times, as many as you want, so that you can have a more comprehensive and more detailed. So one of the very strong strengths of the case study was in the detailed information, yeah, compared to other methods. Of course, we to talk about the other strength is on flexibilities. Yeah. So compared to other methods, especially on quantitative research methods, where you have to follow the protocol as strict as possible, yeah, case study offer a more flexibilities. Yeah, you can jump between one cases, you can do another thing, another cases, then you have a flexibility to manage between those things. Of course, next one, the strength is emphasized on the context. So your cases was not in silos. They are not stands in one vacuums. Of course, they have a context. So in case study research, a context is a very important component in analyzing the data and everything. Yeah. Besides the strengths, of course, there's a lot of weakness. Number one, as I said, if you see the 1930s until 1950s, there always a question about subjectivities. Because you have small data, you go very deep, then you tend to be more subjective. So this become a criticism into most of the qualitative research methods, because they show it too subjective. It's not objective enough to do as a tools, to uncover the real, on the data. So next one, it might require a high investment, because the directions, of the case study sometimes from one simple research, then we found out actually there's a more, that you like to develop more. So the more things will cost you more investment, more monies to spend, more time, consuming, you consume more of your time, to work on that deep data. Because if you need to have a deep data, then you need to go very big on that. Okay. Lastly, I will be in the last part of these lectures. One of the very important when you talk about ethical considerations. Uh, when you talk about case studies, for example, in many educational case studies, sometimes you have to. There's a lot of PNCs, PNCs data that you have to be very careful handling it. For example, like the education or health records of your respondents. Then the personal integrity, sensitivities, prejudice. So these are in the case study. These are not avoided, but it take into a considerations. One thing that is very important is that a common complaint, when doing change direction, sometimes some of the students, when they are some of the researcher, when they start doing case study, they find out actually from the small issues there's a lot of other issue involved. So if those involved, sometimes it's diverted your studies, from only study one thing, then become study of many things. That you have to be very careful. When you did that, sometimes you're losing your main, your original research design. That will create a lot of unethical issues. When you suddenly without proper planning, you collect another data which was including a PNC's document, etc. That is the important ethical consideration of the case studies. Okay, I think that's all from my side. You can contact me, if in this email or in these phone numbers if you have any queries or question, something that unclear about these lectures. Okay. Thank you very much. I see you again in the next class. Hopefully this recordings is clear. And you can take benefit, and other people also can understand the situation, the gist of the case studies, and actually implementing in your assignment trees. In the futures. I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.